as a receptionist for being late, challenging her to a humiliating bet to prove who's better. But when the secret behind her delay comes to light, his world crumbles. You won't believe the ending of this story. The scorching Miami sun illuminated the entrance of the Sunset Palace Hotel, a luxurious beachfront oasis where the gleam of palm trees reflected in the mirrored glass windows. Gabriel Montgomery, 38, CEO of the Montgomery Lux hotel chain, parked his black convertible with a roar that turned heads. He adjusted his sunglasses, straightened his custom-tailored gray suit, and strode through the lobby with the arrogance of someone who knows the world revolves around them. Gabriel was notorious for his obsession with perfection. Punctuality was law, and any mistake warranted a lecture or a firing. Today he was in a foul mood after a frustrating meeting with investors. At the reception desk, the manager, Larry, a middle-aged man with a garish tie and a nervous smile, was trying to calm a guest complaining about her room's view. Gabriel stopped, arms crossed, and frowned. "Where's the receptionist?" he muttered, his tone already laced with irritation. Before Larry could respond, the hotel's revolving door squeaked, and there she was, Clara Thompson, 35, the receptionist, rushing in with a wrinkled uniform, her blonde hair tied in a messy bun, and a coffee stain on her blouse. She tripped on the rug, sending a stack of tourist brochures flying like confetti. "Sorry, I'm here," Clara exclaimed, breathless, as she scrambled to pick up the brochures. The guests in the lobby laughed, and Gabriel rolled his eyes. 15 minutes late, he said, glancing at his gold watch. "That's unacceptable." Clara opened her mouth to explain, but Gabriel raised a hand. "No excuses, you're out." The silence in the lobby was deafening. Larry swallowed hard, and even the guests paused to watch the spectacle. Clara, however, wasn't one to back down easily. With a defiant spark in her green eyes, she stood up, wiped her hands on her skirt, and fired back. "Seriously, you fire me without even listening? I bet you couldn't last 5 minutes in my shoes, Mr. Perfect." The lobby buzzed with murmurs. Gabriel raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her audacity. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by a receptionist with a coffee stain on her blouse. "A bet," Gabriel laughed, but there was a competitive glint in his eyes. "Fine, Miss Thompson. If I can't do your job for a day, you get your job back and a bonus. But if I win, you leave without a scene." Clara crossed her arms, chin raised. "Deal, but get ready to sweat that fancy shirt." The guests applauded, thinking it was some kind of impromptu show, and Larry whispered to Clara, "Are you crazy?" As Clara returned to the desk, trying to ignore her racing heart, Gabriel leaned toward Larry and muttered, "Find out why she was late. I want to know everything." He wouldn't admit it, but something about Clara's courage intrigued him. She wasn't just any employee, there was a spark there, something he hadn't expected. And as Clara served a guest with a forced smile, she was thinking about the reason for her delay. The entire night at the hospital, holding her mother's hand as she battled a recent cancer diagnosis. But Gabriel didn't know that. Not yet. The lobby returned to its rhythm, with the sound of rolling suitcases and guest laughter. But the tension between Gabriel and Clara lingered in the air. She glanced at him sideways, and he, for the first time in years, felt something beyond anger or boredom, curiosity. What was Clara hiding? And why, despite everything, was he already looking forward to that day of the bet? The lobby of the Sunset Palace Hotel buzzed with the comings and goings of guests, the clinking of glasses at the bar, and the muffled sound of ocean waves outside. Clara tried to keep her smile while dealing with a couple who insisted on changing rooms for the third time, but her mind was elsewhere, on the crazy bet she'd just made with Gabriel Montgomery, the man who'd fired her without blinking. "What was I thinking?" she thought as she typed on the computer. Still, the idea of watching that arrogant CEO stumble in the chaos of the reception desk brought a mischievous smile to her face. Gabriel, meanwhile, leaned against a marble pillar pretending to check his phone, but his eyes kept drifting to Clara every few seconds. He didn't understand why she irritated him so much or why her sharp comeback left him intrigued. "She's just a receptionist," he muttered to himself, but the truth was, no one had ever challenged him like that. He waved Larry over. "So anything on her delay?" Larry, still sweating under his colorful tie, stammered, "I'm checking, boss, but Clara, she's good people, you know. Always covers everyone's shifts." Gabriel rolled his eyes. "I didn't ask for a recommendation letter, Larry." Meanwhile, a new figure entered the scene, Mandy, the hotel concierge, a 25-year-old with an exaggerated southern drawl and a natural talent for gossip. She approached Clara with a gleam in her eyes. "Girl, you're playing with fire. Betting with Mr. Montgomery. He's like the king of ice." Clara laughed, adjusting her bun. "King of ice? He'll melt when he tries to handle Mr. Goldstein in the next hour. That man complains about the air he breathes." Mandy let out a laugh so loud it made a guest spill their orange juice. As the clock ticked toward late afternoon, the lobby was busier than ever. That's when the first mini-conflict of the bet arose. A group of influencers arrived, all talking at once, demanding immediate check-in in Ocean View rooms. Clara, with her juggling skills, started organizing everything, But Gabriel, sensing a chance to prove himself, stepped in. "I'll handle this," he said, with a tone mixing confidence and arrogance. Clara crossed her arms, a smirk on her lips. "Good luck, boss." Gabriel, with his CEO charm, tried to calm the influencers but was soon buried under their demands. "I want a room with a balcony. It has to be on the same floor as my friend. Do you have a charger for an iPhone 15? He typed on the system, but the screen felt like a maze. "Where's the upgrade option?" he muttered as a pink-haired influencer tapped her foot. Clara, seeing the chaos, stepped in and, with a quick tap, sorted it out. "Done. Rooms 504 to 508, ocean view." Next, the influencers clapped, and Gabriel turned red, a feeling he hadn't had since his teenage years. "You cheated," he said, pointing at Clara, who just shrugged. "Cheated? I just did my job. Wanna try again?" The chemistry between them was undeniable. Its jab was like a spark, and the guests around them started noticing, exchanging curious glances. Mandy, watching from afar, whispered to Larry, "I bet $10 these two will be kissing by the end of the week." Larry shook his head. "You're terrible, Mandy." But the tension spiked when Gabriel, trying to regain control, announced, "Tomorrow I'm at the desk all day, and I'll prove I'm better than you, Ms. Thompson." Clara laughed, but her smile hid a twinge of worry. She needed this job not just for the paycheck, but because the hotel's health insurance was the only thing keeping her mother's treatments affordable. She couldn't lose, no matter how charming or infuriating Gabriel was. As the day ended, Larry returned with news that stopped Gabriel in his tracks. "Boss, about Clara's delay. Seems she spent the night at the hospital. Something about her mom being sick." Gabriel frowned, his chest tightening in a way he didn't expect. "Sick how?" Larry shrugged. "Don't know the details, but she's not one to slack off. Maybe it's worth hearing her side." Gabriel dismissed Larry with a wave, but the words stuck with him. He looked at Clara, now cleaning the desk with near-frantic energy, and felt something new, doubt. Had he judged her too quickly? The Miami sunset, painting the sky orange and pink, and Clara grabbed her bag, ready to leave. Gabriel watched her, from afar, still holding his phone as a disguise. "Tomorrow, Miss Thompson," he called out, his tone half playful, half. Clara turned, her hair now loose over her shoulders. "Bring a shirt you can get dirty, Mr. Montgomery. You'll need it." She left, leaving Gabriel with a smile he couldn't hide. But deep down, he knew. Something about this woman was starting to get under his skin, and he had no idea how much. The morning at the Sunset Palace Hotel was bustling, with the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the salty scent of the Miami Sea. Clara arrived early, determined not to give Gabriel any reason to doubt her competence. She wore her uniform pristine this time, her blonde hair neatly tied, but her eyes carried the exhaustion of another night at the hospital. Still, she smiled as she greeted guests, as if the weight of the world wasn't on her shoulders. Today was the day of the bet, and Clara was ready to watch Gabriel Montgomery, the almighty CEO, crumble in the chaos of the reception desk. Gabriel, on the other hand, showed up in the lobby with an almost comical confidence. He'd swapped his suit for a navy polo and khaki pants, trying to look approachable. "Good morning, Miss Thompson," he said, with a smile that blended charm and provocation. Clara raised an eyebrow. "Ready to play receptionist, Mr. Montgomery, or are you already thinking of quitting?" He laughed, shaking his head. "You'll see, I run a hotel chain. This is a piece of cake." But piece of cake wasn't quite right. The first challenge came in the form of an irate guest, Mr. Goldstein, a 70-year-old who seemed to have a complaint for every grain of sand on the beach. "My toaster doesn't work, and the Wi-Fi is a turtle," he bellowed, slamming his fist on the counter. Gabriel, with his best CEO smile, tried to calm him. "Sir, we'll fix this right away." But as he tried to log the complaint in the system, he clicked the wrong screen and cancelled another guest's reservation. Clara, watching with arms crossed, rushed to fix the error before chaos erupted. "Maybe you should stick to smiling, Mr. Montgomery," she teased, typing quickly. The guests around laughed, and Gabriel, red-faced, muttered, "This is trickier than it looks." Meanwhile, Mandy the concierge didn't miss a chance to stir the pot. She approached Clara during a break and whispered, "Look at that. The boss is staring at you again. I bet he's more interested in you than the bet." Clara rolled her eyes but couldn't hide a slight blush. "Mandy, stop it. He just wants to win to rub it in my face." But deep down, she noticed Gabriel's glances. They weren't just irritation anymore, but something like admiration. She shook her head, pushing the thought away. "Focus, Clara. You need this job." The day continued with more comic mishaps. Gabriel spilled coffee on the printer while trying to help a guest with a map, mixed up a honeymoon reservation with a corporate conference, and, in a particularly hilarious moment, gave the wrong key to a couple, who returned furious after finding another guest in their room. Clara, with her knack for handling crises, saved the day each time, not without throwing jabs. "You know, Mr. Montgomery, for a guy who runs hotels, you're awful with keys." He laughed, despite himself. "And you, Miss Thompson, are annoyingly good at this." The tension between them grew with every glance and sharp comment, and the guests started noticing the chemistry. Even Larry, trying to stay neutral, couldn't resist saying to Mandy, "They bicker like they're married." Mandy giggled. "Give it an hour, and he's asking for her number." But not everything was laughs. During a break, Clara got a call from the hospital. Her mother, Ellen, needed another round of tests, and the bills were piling up. She hung up, her face pale, and Gabriel nearby noticed. "Everything okay?" he asked, with a concern that surprised him. Clara forced a smile. "Nothing you need to know, boss." Then a new mini-conflict erupted. A group of VIP guests arrived unannounced, demanding immediate attention. Gabriel, eager to redeem himself, took the lead but ended up promising an upgrade. The hotel couldn't deliver. Clara, with a sigh, stepped in, negotiating with the guests with a charm that left everyone enchanted. Gabriel watched, impressed. "How do you do that?" he asked, almost without thinking. Clara shrugged. "Years of dealing with people, and a bit of patience. Something you clearly lack." He laughed, but for the first time he felt genuine respect. As the day ended, Larry pulled Gabriel aside. "Boss, I got more details on Clara. Her mom's got lung cancer, advanced stage. She's been taking care of her alone. No family around. That's why she was late." Gabriel felt the ground shift beneath him. He looked at Clara, laughing with a guest while organizing papers at the desk, and guilt washed over him. He'd judged her as irresponsible, but she was carrying a burden he couldn't imagine. For the first time, Gabriel questioned his own arrogance. "Thanks, Larry," he muttered, his voice low. "I'll figure out what to do." As Clara grabbed her bag to leave, Gabriel called out, "Clara, wait." She turned, her face tired, but her eyes still defiant. "What now? Want to double the bet?" He hesitated, something he hadn't done in years. "No, just good night and see you tomorrow." She frowned, surprised by the softness in his voice, and left. Gabriel stayed in the lobby, the glow of Miami's lights reflecting in his eyes. He knew he had to do something. But what and why? Suddenly, did the idea of Clara leaving his life feel so wrong? The Sunset Palace Hotel seemed to glow under Miami's midday sun, but inside the lobby, the atmosphere was charged. Clara worked at the desk with her usual efficiency, but her shoulders were tense, her eyes constantly checking the clock. The hospital's call from the previous night still echoed in her mind. Her mother's tests were more expensive than expected, and the hotel's insurance barely covered half. She needed to win this bet not just to keep her job, but to prove to herself she could handle anything, even a smug CEO like Gabriel Montgomery. Gabriel, meanwhile, was determined to do better on the second day of the bet. He showed up in the lobby with a new polo shirt, white this time, for luck, but his confidence wasn't as unshakable. Larry's revelation about Clara's mother had kept him up half the night, questioning every impulsive decision he'd made. He still wanted to win the bet, but not out of pride. It was more about getting closer to Clara, understanding who she was. He arrived wearing a gray polo, sleeves rolled up, and, for the first time, without the untouchable CEO air. Clara noticed the change but only raised an eyebrow. "Decided to behave today, Mr. Montgomery?" she asked, her tone mixing provocation and fatigue. He smiled, almost shyly. "Maybe Ms. Thompson. We'll see." The day started with a new test for Gabriel. A group of Japanese tourists arrived, speaking little English and needing help with a city itinerary. Gabriel, trying to impress, grabbed a tablet to show maps but accidentally activated the auto-translator, which started speaking in Spanish. The tourists laughed, confused, and Clara stepped in, using gestures and the right translation app to sort it out. "You're almost there," she said with a sarcastic smile. "Almost." Gabriel laughed, but his eyes lingered on hers a moment too long, and Clara's heart gave a treacherous leap. Mandy, ever observant, didn't let it slide. "Clara, what was that look?" "He's melting. I told you," she whispered, handing out brochures. Clara shook her head, laughing. "Mandy, stop making things up. He's just a boss trying not to look like a fool." But deep down, she felt the chemistry growing. Every jab, every shared laugh seemed to pull them closer. Even Larry noticed, muttering to Mandy, "If they don't sort this out soon, I'll have to step in." The emotional climax hit mid when a public incident shook the lobby. An elderly guest, Mr. Carter, collapsed near the bar, causing panic. Clara, with years of experience handling emergencies, rushed to help, calling an ambulance and calming the other guests. Gabriel, for the first time, didn't try to take charge. He just watched, awestruck by her calm and competence. When the ambulance arrived, Clara escorted Mr. Carter to the exit, holding his hand and promising everything would be okay. Gabriel, still in the lobby, felt his guilt deepen. How could he have thought she was irresponsible? As Clara returned to the desk, exhausted, Gabriel approached. "You were incredible out there," he said, his voice low and sincere. Clara, surprised, shrugged. "It's just what I do, Mr. Montgomery. Someone's got to take care of people." Her simple, truthful words hit Gabriel hard. He opened his mouth to say something, but Mandy interrupted, running up with hot gossip. "Clara, that socialite, Mrs. Vanderbilt, is telling everyone you're the best employee she's ever seen." And guess what? She wants to hire you for her hotel in Palm Beach. The lobby erupted in murmurs, and Clara paled. The offer was tempting: a better salary, maybe enough to cover her mother's treatments. But it would mean leaving the Sunset Palace. And Gabriel, she glanced at him, who looked equally shocked. Are you going to take it? He asked, his tone mixing curiosity and something like fear. Clara hesitated, her heart torn. I don't know. Depends on how this bet ends, she said, trying to keep it light, but her eyes betrayed her emotion. Then the moral turning point hit. Later, as Clara organized papers, a nurse from the hospital called, and Gabriel, near the desk, overheard by accident. Clara, your mom's tests got worse. We need to schedule urgent chemo, but the cost. Clara gripped the phone, trying not to break down. I'll figure it out, she said, her voice trembling. When she hung up, she didn't notice Gabriel behind her, his face pale with shock. He finally grasped the gravity of her situation and the magnitude of his mistake in firing her without listening. Clara, he started, his voice hoarse. She turned, surprised, and saw something new in his eyes. Remorse. I didn't know about your mom. Why didn't you tell me? Clara crossed her arms, her gaze hard. You didn't give me a chance, remember? Fired me in 2 minutes. Gabriel swallowed, speechless. For the first time, he had no clever comeback or plan. He just knew he had to fix this, not just for the bet, but for her. As the sun began to set, tinting the lobby in golden hues, Gabriel made a decision. He couldn't change the past, but he could act now. He looked at Clara, who returned to work, as if nothing had happened, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. The desire to be better. But how? And would Clara accept any gesture from him after everything? He knew he had to do something big to make up for his mistake with Clara. But he also wanted to prove to her and himself that he wasn't just the arrogant CEO she thought he was. He spent the night thinking, and for the first time in years, Gabriel Montgomery, the man who had everything under control, felt afraid of failing. Clara, meanwhile, was exhausted but determined. She arrived at the hotel with a coffee in hand, her face marked by dark circles but with a stubborn smile. Mrs. Vanderbilt's offer still lingered in her mind: a new job, more money, maybe a chance to pay for her mother's treatment. But leaving the Sunset Palace meant leaving behind colleagues like Mandy and Larry. And, as much as it hurt to admit, Gabriel, something in him was changing, and she felt it in his softer glances, his less cutting words. Still, she couldn't afford to trust so easily. The final day of the bet began with comic chaos only the Sunset Palace could deliver. A group of cruise ship guests arrived with massive suitcases, clogging the lobby, and one's pet parrot escaped, flying over everyone's heads. Gabriel, trying to prove his competence, chased the bird, only to trip over a suitcase and fall to his knees, drawing laughter from all. Clara, with a sigh, grabbed a towel and lured the parrot back, returning it to its owner with a smile. Trying to lose on purpose, Mr. Montgomery? She asked, helping him up. He held her hand a second longer, his eyes locked on hers. Maybe I just want to impress you, Miss Thompson, he said, his tone mixing playfulness and something deeper. Clara blushed but turned away, pretending to tidy the desk. Mandy, of course, didn't let it pass. Look at that, Clara, he's flirting shamelessly now, she whispered, handing Gabriel a glass of water as he dusted off his pants. Clara laughed, but her heart raced. Mandy, he's my boss, or was, until he fired me. But her words felt weak, even to herself. Gabriel wasn't just the arrogant boss anymore, he was trying, and she saw it. As the day went on, Gabriel took the first step toward redemption. During a break, he pulled Clara aside in the lobby. I know I messed up, he started, his voice low, without the CEO tone. I fired you without listening, judged you without knowing about your mom. I was an idiot. Clara crossed her arms, surprised by his sincerity. Is this an apology or part of a bet? She asked with a half smile. He shook his head. It's real, and to prove it, I want to help your mom's hospital bills. I can cover them. Clara froze, her eyes wide. You what? Why? Gabriel shrugged, almost shy. Because you deserve it, and because I want to be more than the guy who fired you. The offer was huge, but Clara hesitated. Accepting would mean owing Gabriel something, and she valued her independence. I don't want charity, she said firmly. I want my job back, and I want you to finish this bet like a man, not a rich guy who fixes everything with money. Gabriel laughed, impressed by her strength. Fair enough, the bet's still on. But, Clara, I'm not giving up on you. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning neither was ready to name. The secondary conflict with Mrs. Vanderbilt resolved, too. She returned to the hotel, insisting Clara take the Palm Beach job offer. But, to everyone's surprise, Clara declined with a gentle smile. Thank you, Mrs. Vanderbilt, but my place is here, with my team, and some people I'm starting to understand. She glanced at Gabriel, whose heart raced. Mandy, overhearing, squealed and whispered to Larry, I told you romance was coming. The romantic moment came at the end of the day when the bet concluded. Gabriel, exhausted but smiling, admitted defeat in the lobby, in front of guests and staff. Miss Thompson, you won. Your job's yours, with a raise. And I learned being a receptionist is harder than running a company. The lobby cheered, and Clara, tears in her eyes, laughed. You weren't half bad, Mr. Montgomery, but next time, steer clear of parrots. He laughed, and then, on impulse, took her hand. Clara, give me a chance to get to know you outside this desk. Dinner, just us. The lobby went silent, everyone waiting for her answer. Clara, with a shy smile, said, only if you promise not to spill coffee on me. The crowd laughed, and Gabriel, eyes sparkling, replied, deal. As the sun set, painting Miami's sky in shades of pink, Clara and Gabriel shared a look that said more than words. He was no longer the arrogant millionaire, and she was no longer just a receptionist. Something new was beginning, neither expected but both wanted. The Sunset Palace Hotel had never felt so welcoming. The soft glow of the evening filtered through the windows, blending with the warm light of the lobby's chandeliers. Clara tidied the desk with a light smile, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The bet with Gabriel was over, her job was secure, and for the first time, she felt she might not have to face life's battles alone. Gabriel, meanwhile, was changed. The arrogant CEO who'd stormed into the hotel days ago had given way to a humbler man who now saw the world and Clara through new eyes. The promised dinner arrived, and Gabriel chose a beachfront restaurant with outdoor tables and the sound of waves as the soundtrack. He showed up without his usual suit, wearing a light blue shirt and a nervous smile, something Clara found surprisingly charming. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair loose in waves, and for the first time in months, felt like more than a receptionist fighting to survive. You look different without the uniform, Gabriel said, pulling out her chair. Clara laughed, her voice light as the breeze. And you look different without that I own the world stare. The dinner was a mix of laughter and confessions. Gabriel shared about his childhood, growing up under the pressure of a tycoon father who never let him fail. I learned to be tough, but I think I forgot how to be human, he admitted, twirling his wineglass. Clara, touched, shared about her mother, Ellen, and how she always taught her to find joy in small things, even on the hardest days. Said love is what keeps us standing, Clara said, her eyes shining. Gabriel looked at her, his heart tight. Your mom's right, and it took me too long to get that. The night ended with a walk on the beach, shoes in hand and cool sand. Underfoot, Gabriel stopped, looking at the sea, and said, almost in a whisper, Clara, I want to do things right, not just with you, but with the hotel, with people. You showed me what really matters. Clara smiled, her heart racing. Then keep trying, Gabriel. You're on the right track. He took her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Under Miami's starry sky, they shared a look that sealed something new, not just a romance, but a promise to be better, together. Back at the hotel, the following days showed Gabriel's transformation. Inspired by Clara's story, he launched a staff support program, covering medical expenses for families. Mandy and Larry, of course, couldn't resist gossiping. I told you it'd end in romance, Mandy exclaimed while Larry laughed. You won the $10, Mandy. Clara, now more confident, took on a leadership role at the hotel, and her mother, with treatment secured, began showing signs of improvement. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hopeful. The final romantic moment came on a quiet night in the lobby, when Gabriel surprised Clara with a bouquet of sunflowers, her mother's favorite, for you and Ellen, he said with a shy smile. Clara, tears in her eyes, hugged him, and the lobby, full of guests, applauded like it was a movie scene. You're a walking cliché, she teased, but the kiss they shared was anything but. It was the start of something real, built on mistakes, laughter, and second chances. As Clara and Gabriel walked hand in hand along Miami's boardwalk, the chaos of the past felt distant. The hotel, once a stage for conflicts, was now a place of connection. And Clara knew love, as her mother always said, was what made it all worthwhile. What does Clara and Gabriel's story teach us? That true love sees beyond appearances, that mistakes can spark great changes, and that empathy is the key to real connections. Do you believe in second chances in love? Have you ever had a misunderstanding lead to something unexpected? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to leave a heart, share with someone who loves a good story, and subscribe to the channel for more moments like this. Thank you for following Clara and Gabriel's journey. It was a story of laughter, tears, and warmed hearts. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and come get emotional with the next story. Until then, spread love and hope out there.